that come from a more difficult global backdrop. But no, I'm still pretty constructive on how the GCC fares. The Gulf as a whole, UAE in particular, came into this year with real momentum, consumption growth, investment growth. I think that is likely to persist. The balance sheets are strong, and these big structural reforms that have taken place as well over the last 5 years. Again, I think they lift the kind of potential growth rates that the UAE has, but also its capacity to deal with external shock. I mean, for overall growth, a lot will depend on what happens with oil production. What I care about is what happens to the non-oil sector. That's where households and corporates make their business. And my expectation is still that we get growth of sort of 3.5–4% for that non-oil sector for this year and for next year as well, which is pretty good compared to the UAE's historic average, and is very good on a global basis. Yeah, I mean, for the UAE and Saudi, the non-oil sectors are growing at a similar kind of pace, but I think it's easier to be more comfortable with the UAE growth story because of its drivers, because it is about the investment growth which has already started, and the consumption growth that comes from gains in the population, and by the remarkable success of its export-orientated service sector, which is a big driver of expansion. I don't think anyone wins from these kinds of strains on the on global trade, and that global trade system is such a big driver of global growth. But yeah, on a relative basis, I think the UAE can outperform. It's less exposed to the immediate economic headwinds that come from high tariffs. You're right. With time, maybe you start to see industries and corporates begin to rethink their capital allocation decisions, where they put FDI as a consequence of shifts of the trade system. But that takes time. So I don't think it's an immediate shift in behaviour. No, we'll just have to see how this trade system settles. Yeah, I mean, FDI into the UAE has been very strong over the last 2 or 3 years, 4 or 5% of GDP, which is a very high number. I've been looking for something similar for this year and for next year too, but I think we will have to see what happens to global growth, to global risk appetite, and how that affects the capital spending decisions that corporates make around the world, including for here in the GCC. No, I'm participating because it's a really important event. It brings together a real array of policymakers, of market participants, of corporates, financial institutions to talk through the changes that are happening here, where the opportunities sit, but also when the vulnerabilities are as well. So yeah, it's an event I'm always very glad to be part of.